Hey everyone, my name's Kelvin, and I'm going to quickly show you how you can make a mandala just like this one in Mandala Creator Jungle Edition. The first thing you want to do is download that folder from Creative Market and then unzip it. I'll launch Illustrator, and we'll start by opening the Jungle Elements template. So inside Illustrator, go to File, Open, and then navigate to wherever it is that you unzipped that folder. So we've got a couple different files inside. This first folder has the brushes and elements. This has the templates that we'll use to actually reflect the mandala around. These are some extra files, and then this is the README with the link to this video and probably some other videos too. So the jungle elements is in the first folder. There it is. And it's just a little over 300 little vector drawings that I made. It doesn't look like much at first, but just this selection will allow you to make like millions of different kinds of mandalas. It's totally unlimited. So after we've got the jungle elements open, we'll go to the template, the reflector template. So back to open, and then the reflector template's in the second folder. We'll open the six-sided one. And the six-sided reflector template, it basically, you're just going to arrange those jungle elements inside of this sort of pie slice, and then the action script automatically reflects it around and then puts your result over here. So let's load those action scripts. So we'll go to Window, Actions. Usually you'll see some action scripts already there, kind of default ones. You can clear those. And then we'll load them just like, here we go, load actions. And then back to that folder. And the actions are in the second one. There we go. So we're using the six-sided template, so we'll use the six-sided actions. I'll show you the two-sided actions later. Okay, so they look just like this. If they don't look like this, you'll want to make sure button mode is enabled. So if they look all confusing and stuff, just go to this little menu and then enable button mode so they look cool and highlighted and stuff. So most of these top ones, these are just buttons basically. They run scripts, and most of these top ones are just shortcuts to things already available up here in your menus. They're just to make your workflow a little bit smoother, a little bit faster. These two on the bottom, these are basically the reflection scripts. These are a little more complicated and super, super handy and satisfying to use. So we'll start by making maybe a quick demo mandala here. Oh, actually, one more thing. There's also brushes that come with this. So we'll open up the brushes panel, and we'll go to Open Brush Library, Other Library, back to that folder we unzipped. And it's in the first folder, and it's called This Brush Library 29 Vines and Stems. This is the same brush library as in the previous version of Coloring Book Pro Mandala Creator, the Garden Edition one. It's the same brushes. They look just like this. There we go, that's neat. And then we'll start by going to the jungle elements and just choosing a few things. You only need 2 or 3 elements to make a really unique illustration. So I really like that flower and that one. Oops, wrong button. This flower and this flower, and one of these small ones too. And then I'll just use this copy script over here. So I'll copy those and then paste them. I think we need a bird as well, and maybe a fruit and some leaves. This is one of my favorite ones. Copy, paste, and then maybe one of these little berries. And then some simple leaves. How about these ones? There we go. We just need to sort of make an arrangement and then we can run one of those reflection scripts. And in the previous version, there was just one reflection script. I've added this one, which is really cool, and I'll show you that one first. So we can scale vector elements without changing this black line, the stroke width, but you have to make sure you have the correct setting, and that's in the menu up here. We'll go to File, actually Edit, Preferences, and General, and I'll show you what this means. So if we check this box, Scale Strokes and Effects, then scaling this will shrink the stroke width as well, which is not actually good because in an illustration or a coloring book illustration in particular, we want all the lines to be the same thickness. So when we scale our little bird here, we want to make sure that this line thickness stays the same. So if you're scaling your elements and you notice that the line thickness isn't staying the same, it's expanding or shrinking depending on how you're scaling, you'll need to go to Preferences, General, and make sure this box is unticked. So for this add-on to work properly, make sure this is unticked, okay? Just like that. So this means that when we scale it, the line thickness will stay the same no matter what. In this case, 1 point is perfect. So these templates, this little pie slice template, it's just going to reflect it and spin it around. And it's okay if things go over the edge, basically. That's totally fine. So we'll put a flower there. We'll arrange the bigger elements first. Let's use one of these vines. So I'll get the brush tool here, and I'll do something like, that's cool. And then I'll select that, and then just select one of these vines that I like. I think simple is probably better in this case. So looks like the flower is behind the vine, so I made a script that'll let you bring it forward. If you want to scale the size of the flower, I also made some scripts that will do that in kind of small increments. And also rotate as well, and duplicate. If you want to, you can just click the duplicate script. If you want to flip one of your designs around, you can use the flip script here. Rotating as well, some kind of incremental rotations, and then a really big rotation script here. And move to front, move to back, and then the copy and paste ones. I'll show you the expand brushes one in a minute. So when you make brushes in Illustrator, this brush is at 1 point thickness right now. If you increase that, basically what it does is it also makes the border, the actual black stroke, really big as well, which we want all the strokes to be the same. So keep the brush at one point stroke, and just use the different sizes available in here. That's going to be the easiest way to use these brushes. So I'll rotate that so it kind of lines up with that a little better. I think I do want my bird to be in the front. Maybe I've got a bigger one here. There we go. So anything that goes over the edge of this pie slice will either get reflected back on itself if you use this script, or it'll just get rotated and it'll appear over here if you use the other script. So depending on which script you want to use, you might think about it a little bit and try to anticipate what'll happen. But these scripts are non-destructive, so you'll always be able to go back and do like a small tweak and then run the script again. Make these a little bigger. Let's do a curvy one. So there's kind of a interesting arrangement, and we can run a test really quickly. So let's make sure that everything that we don't want included in this mandala is off the artboard. The artboard is this little black box here. So make sure all the extra stuff is over there, away from the artboard. And then we'll select everything in our pie slice. And then I'll show you the reflection script. This is the first one. Basically, what it does is it just sort of a kaleidoscope effect. So the bird is reflected back on itself, same as the flowers. Any element that goes over the edge of the pie slice is reflected back on itself. So you'll arrange your designs accordingly. So I'll delete that and show you the second one. So we'll select the pie slice, and then I'll show you the second script. Copy and rotate 6 sides. There we go. So see what it did? It made copies and then rotated them all 60 degrees apart to make this kind of a mandala arrangement here. And this is where we can make fine adjustments. So like, okay, see this flower is sort of occurring on the corner of the bird's wing. I don't really like that, so I'll move this flower more closer to the stem. So that's the flower. The bird's getting reflected over and this wing is intersecting that. So I'll just move the flower over here and bring it to the front. I'll delete this output over there. Select my pie slice again and then reflect it. There we go, that's a little better. It's not running into the wing anymore. And maybe this could be a little smaller and I'll put another flower over there. So let's shrink that. And let's put a little version of this one. Kind of covering the end of the stem. Okay. If you don't delete the result over here before running the script again, it'll just put another mandala on top of it, which is just confusing. So we'll select everything in the pie slice and run that script. Same thing is kind of happening. This flower is sometimes occurring on top, sometimes occurring on the bottom. But the nice thing is we can actually go in here and actually select a flower that's not occurring where we'd like it to be and sort of move it manually to the front if we wanted to. So that's not a problem. What's bothering me is this one is getting sort of covered by this one. I could actually just move this flower a little bit further over into this open space. So we'll delete the output and move this one a little bit closer here. Maybe even shrink it a little bit. There. Select it all and then run the script. That's really nice. There's another little gap here. This flower is looking like a little bit tight. The lines are a little close together. So it looks like I have some room now that I could expand that one a bit. Maybe what I'll do is just switch them actually. Let's bring that to the front. And I think it's okay that it's sort of behind the bird. There we go. We'll get rid of the output there and try this again. Okay, that's pretty nice actually. So my bird is also sort of running into itself. So I'll shrink the bird so that doesn't happen so much. You can use, the corner shrinking, with the constraint, or you can use these shrink and grow scripts over here. Okay, we'll give that a try and see what happens. That's actually looking really nice. Where the bird's wing is kind of exactly poking the corner of this, which is kind of annoying actually. So I'll just rotate this flower. There, try that. That's a lot better. Okay. Yeah, so sometimes there'll be like an empty space in the center of your mandala. That's just because it's harder to get stuff, some little object put inside this little tiny corner here. So what I like to do at the end of mandalas is maybe put just a flower in the middle, like maybe one of these. So right now it's grouped basically. So if I double click it, I'm going inside the group and I can arrange things individually. So we'll duplicate this one. So I made another little copy and we'll just move it to the middle, maybe spin it around. There, so this is basically a finished mandala. Now remember when I showed you the brushes, like if you wanted to make this line a little thicker, depending on what kind of a coloring book or kind of an illustration you want to make, you'd go over to the stroke width and make it a little bigger. But if we make it a 3-point stroke, it does this weird thing to the brushes where instead of thickening the line of the brush, it just makes the whole thing wider, right? So I'll do edit undo to show you what's happening here. So see what happens to that brush? It's just kind of a weird behavior. The way to totally avoid that is bring it back to 1 point and then run this script, expand brushes. And that just goes through the whole document, looks for anything that uses a brush, and then expands it. So the brush will behave basically like any of the other vector shapes. So now we can select our mandala and give it a 3-point stroke or whatever, and you notice the brush doesn't get any wider. So if you're increasing the stroke width of your mandala, increasing the line thickness, and you notice some strange behavior happening with the brushes, just run the expand brush script. Really, anytime you use brushes, after you're happy with how they're looking, just use that expand brushes and you'll avoid some kind of glitches you might have in the future. So I'm happy with the 1-point stroke actually. Be careful not to get it accidentally to as like a 0-point stroke. Like if you accidentally hit the down arrow and you have like a blank mandala, then when you bring it back, it'll have some weird look. It'll have overly sharp edges and stuff like that. Most of the designs will look fine if that happens, but a few of them will have kind of a weird look. So we'll do edit undo to go back. And it's basically mandala's finished with a 1-point stroke. I'm happy with that. Let me zoom out. And when you save mandalas, obviously don't save them in this template because there's this weird checkerboard background. The best thing to do is save them in a new document. So we'll go to File, New, and we'll do a square document. And we'll just copy this one over. We can actually use these scripts. I'll just do copy, paste, just like that. And this is where you would save a mandala because you can go to, for example, you could go to File, Save for Web, and save the mandala as a JPEG image this way. And since it's vector, you can give it any dimension. Like you wanted it to be 5,000 pixels by 5,000 pixels, this enormous mandala. You just input it into the Save for Web dialog, and there you go. You have a gigantic mandala. If you're making a coloring book, you'll probably save these as a PNG. So you'll just go to this drop-down menu and you'll go PNG 24 like that. And this will probably give you some pretty good printing results. So cancel that. So now I'll show you the other template. Remember we used the 6-sided template with the 6-sided scripts in this case. Now I'll show you how to use the 2-sided template. So we'll go to File, Open, and here's the 2-sided template. Whoa, we're way zoomed out there. And then we'll load these are the 6-sided scripts. We don't need those anymore, so we'll clear those. And then we'll load the 2-sided scripts. Here we are, 2-sided. And what this does is it just reflects anything up here down to the bottom side here. So it's way simpler than the 6-sided one, but it's pretty handy sometimes. So you could go to your elements here, and you could just do a really simple illustration. grab one of these birds. And maybe some flowers too. Maybe a palm leaf. So remember, I'm keeping in mind that anything I place here on this side will be reflected on the other side when I run the script. And some bananas. That's cool. Maybe down here. And some tropical flowers. So I didn't use any of the brushes in this illustration, so I don't need to use the expand brushes script. I think the bird should be more on top, actually. Maybe some smaller flowers too. Let's flip this one. Because when this is all done, I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees. Okay. So this is the reflection axis here. So anything on this side will be reflected to the other side. So I don't really need to, since these flowers are asymmetrical and they're centering on this line, I don't really need to include them when I run the script. I'll show you why here. Let's set them over here. I'll select all these guys and then run this blue script on the bottom, reflect two sides, and it just quickly reflects it over to the bottom and then puts the result over here. So since that result looks pretty good, I can just place these flowers in their position by hand. So it's occurring behind, so I'll use the move to front script to place it on top. And same with this one here. Okay, that's nice. Just center them. Rotate it a little more. Okay, then I'll select everything. And since these are in different, this is grouped and that's not grouped, I'll just go ahead and just group it all. So now it's all going to move when I select it like this. And then I'll rotate it 90 degrees like that. And there, that's basically what the two-sided script does. You could get even cleverer and similar in my previous video, the one for the garden edition. I showed you how to make like a heart. So you just arrange the flowers and the leaves and the animals and stuff in a kind of a half heart pattern. And then when it's reflected over, you have a full heart. But it's sideways, and you just rotate it using the rotate 90 degree script. And there you have a kind of a floral inspired heart illustration. But you can also do these kind of abstract arrangements really quickly and easily as well. So you would save this, export it too as the same way you did the other one. Don't export it inside this document because it has this background. You just copy it, create a new document, and then paste it here, and then export it from this document. Now, in my, it was the preview images on the product page for this product. I had that sort of bird illustration that was made of the floral elements. I'm going to show you how I did that. So I'll open up the working file for that. Let's see, where did I save it? Here all this is really easy to do. This doesn't use the scripts or the templates. This doesn't involve any of the reflecting scripts or anything like that. What I did was I just made, I found a picture online of this bird. So I'll make these layers invisible. I found a picture of this bird, and then I put it behind. So I've since scaled this up, but let me shrink it here. So this bird pretty much, it lines up just about like that. So what I did was I arranged the various jungle elements, flowers and leaves and stuff, on top of this drawing. And then just about after, I had just started, then I removed the image and just kind of went freestyle and just kind of like, oh, what looks good here, what looks good there. I didn't follow the drawing like exactly. I just sort of started it, kind of let it crystallize. I drew the eye by hand using the pen tool, and then just kind of put some stuff around it. And because, some of these drawings are closer together, like they would look darker if you shrunk them than some of the other ones. For example, this palm leaf compared to this one. I tried to make really small, tightly lined stuff where it was generally darker, like the beak or like these sort of neck feathers. And then where it was generally very light on the bird, I used a really thin sort of application of leaves and flowers, and I did this dotted line as well. That's this brush. You just draw your line like that, select it, and then select one of these dotted lines. It took a little bit of time, and what I noticed the same thing with this bird as I did with the fox in the previous version of this coloring book, Mandala Creator. After I started arranging these and got about to here, I was like feeling like totally discouraged because like this will never turn out. But what I found is if you just push till the end and just make yourself finish it, it will always look amazing. There's just something about, it looks, when it's half finished, it doesn't look like anything. But when you get all the way to the end and put these, highlights and lowlights and some dotted lines and some kind of randomly placed flowers and stuff, it just looks so, so good. And since it's made from those vector elements, you can scale it to any size. And in this case, the brushes are still, they're still live, like they're still, oh, actually they're not. It looks like I expanded them. I used this expand brushes. So I could increase the line thickness like that. But 1 point usually works fine for me. And yeah, that's pretty much how I made these kind of animal illustrations. Hopefully this is a pretty solid overview of Mandala Creator Jungle Edition. And I can't wait to see what you guys make. If you have any questions, just leave a comment or send me a message on Creative Market. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching.